But beyond that, there is an agenda to get the whole world back under a Hebrew kingdom. That the world is dominated by Jewish people in Jerusalem under a religious system. And I'm not talking about, Jewish people as opposed to any other one else. I got no issue with Jewish people. They have the right to believe whatever they want to believe, and that's their right. And they do believe what they believe. My desire is they would come to know the truth of who their true Messiah is in Jesus, and find the truth of what they were looking for or are still looking for in a Messiah. And it's not going to be an earthly Messiah, that it's going to restore natural Israel to be the controlling system of the world. Jesus, the kingdom of God, will fill the earth. And we have this sort of whole misnomer of, I guess, Zionists who believe in a state of Israel and that they are God's people. And then you get Christian Zionists who believe that Jesus is the Messiah, but they believe that there's an earthly people. Israel is the earthly people of God. Now they don't, for me, that doesn't work. And the root of that teaching comes from the same source that brought the teaching about the rapture and brought the teaching about the millennium, comes from dispensationalism, which comes from Brethranism. And it's really only been around for a couple hundred years. It's not a thing that goes right back to the early church. This is something which has been a few hundred years, but has infected a lot of Christian Western theology. But people are awakening to the reality that isn't the truth. Sadly, so many people are still caught under that, and they become susceptible to this two-part belief in an earthly and a heavenly people, and then an earthly kingdom, which is under a Messiah. But the sort of political Zionists and religious Zionists are looking for an earthly Messiah who would be Jewish and who would restore the kingdom to Israel, which was the question that Jesus' disciples asked him. When will you restore the kingdom to Israel? Well, the kingdom was never going to be restored to Israel. It was going to be a kingdom which encompassed the whole world and everybody, not just one group of people. So they also were deceived when they asked that question. And of course, Jesus basically didn't answer it in the affirmative. Well, I'm going to restore it here. He really basically says you're asking the wrong question, really. So we have a very difficult scenario. And we have people who are involved in the mystic movement seem to be getting drawn into a lot of Hebrew roots stuff without really understanding or knowing about it or knowing what the agenda is behind it, but they're drawn into it. And you've got modern day people calling themselves rabbis who are taking up a rabbinical position of teaching Hebrew understanding, and people who are feeling they need to go and have prayer talis or wear kippahs on their head or go back under Jewish cultural and religious things, whereas that's what Jesus came to set us free from. So we would never be under a religious bondage, but into a relationship with God. So it's quite a difficult subject, and I know it's sort of helped people get very upset about certain things. But I'm not anti-Semitic against Jewish people or against their right to believe in Judaism if they choose to. Just like people have the right to believe in Hinduism or Islam or any other religion. If that's what they choose, they have the right to do it. Do I believe any of those systems will help them find a relationship with God through Jesus? No. But they still have the right to believe what they want to believe. Hopefully, they will eventually come to the knowledge of the truth and realize that Jesus has come to bring them into a relationship with God, in an intimate way. So I would want all Jewish people, Palestinian people, Hindu people, followers of any religion and none to come to know the truth, which is a person. And in finding that truth, they will enter into a relationship with the Father through him. And so that would be my desire. So I'm not against anyone religiously, and again, politically. People can follow whatever political system they want. It doesn't mean I agree with it. And what I don't believe in is that the view that Israel and Jewish people are God's people gives them the excuse to do whatever they want against Palestinian people or any other people. Because I don't think, and this is where I think the problem lies, in that Christian Zionists believe it's okay for Jewish people to defend their land and essentially commit genocide, which I don't believe it would ever be okay, even if they were God's people, to do that, because Jesus came to reveal a new way, love, forgiveness. If you enjoy these videos, would you please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe? It really does help. Thank you very much.